The rain hammered down on Route 47 like the universe had a personal vendetta against elegance. Olivia Kensington's silver BMW, a symbol of her meticulously controlled life, sputtered and died with a final pathetic wheeze. 3 miles outside Millfield, Illinois, and the only witness to her humiliation was a rusted sign creaking in the wind. Thompson's garage. Honest work, fair prices. The words might as well have been a punchline. Inside, the garage smelled like burnt coffee and decades of sweat. Fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets. "Anyone here?" Olivia snapped her Louboutins, sinking into a puddle of something suspicious. The door creaked open, and a man emerged from beneath a pickup, wiping grease off his hands. Marcus Thompson was built like a linebacker who traded tackles for torque wrenches. His eyes, warm but guarded, skimmed over her soaked blazer. "Car trouble, ma'am." Olivia's laugh was razor sharp. "No, I came here for the ambiance." She shoved her phone in his face, a spreadsheet glowing with numbers that could have bought this garage 10 times over. "I need this fixed, now. There's a merger in Chicago tomorrow, and my signature's worth more than your annual revenue." Marcus didn't flinch. He just grabbed a flashlight and stepped back into the storm. For 10 silent minutes, Olivia watched him work rain, slicking his dark skin, his hands moving with a quiet certainty her Ivy League colleagues never had. When he finally straightened, his voice was calm. "Radiators cracked. Water pumps toast. Parts will take 3 days. 3. Olivia's manicure dug into her palms. "I'll wire you $20,000 tonight. Get it done by dawn." Marcus exhaled, slow and steady. "Money doesn't bend time, Miss Kensington." A beat, then softer. "But there's a diner down the road. Coffee's terrible, but the pie'll make you forget your engine's in pieces." Something in his tone, not pity, not patience, just humanity, punctured her fury. The spreadsheet on her phone blurred. For the first time in years, Olivia Kensington hesitated. Outside, the rain eased. Somewhere beyond the garage, a radio played an old blues song, the kind her father used to hum before the boardroom swallowed him whole. She swallowed. "Does the pie at least come with a side of humility?" Marcus grinned. "Only if you ask real nice." And just like that, the CEO who'd built an empire on never backing down found herself following a mechanic into the neon glow of a diner, her stilettos clicking against cracked linoleum. The night stretched ahead heavy with the weight of things unspoken and the strange, unsettling hope that maybe some cracks couldn't be fixed with money. Olivia's knuckles turned white against the table. The diner had gone dead silent. Even Maggie had stopped wiping the counter, her rag frozen mid-swipe. Richard's smirk widened, relishing the tension. Then, from the booth behind them, a voice drawled, "Well, ain't this a fancy interruption?" Old man Jenkins, Marcus's regular customer with the F-250, stood up, his overalls streaked with grease. "Lady was just about to try my mama's peach cobbler recipe. You mind?" Richard barely glanced at him. "This doesn't concern you, Grandpa." A chair scraped. Then another. Suddenly, half the diner was on their feet, the mechanic from the garage down the road, the waitress with the pink streak in her hair, even the teenage busboy clutching a butter knife like a shiv. Marcus stayed seated, but his voice carried like thunder. "See, here's the thing, Richie. Around these parts, we got a rule: you insult a man's work, you answer to his friends." Richard blinked, his confidence faltering as he took in the wall of flannel and frowns. "This is absurd. Sarah, Olivia," she corrected, stepping around the table. The name felt right on her tongue for the first time in years. "And you're right about one thing. I have been neglecting my responsibilities." She reached into her pocket and pulled out her company ID, the gold embossing glinting under the diner lights. With deliberate slowness, she dropped it onto Richard's untouched plate. It landed with a clink in the gravy. Richard's face went slack. "You can't be serious." Emma piped up from behind Marcus, her tiny voice steel-clad. "She so is." Olivia smiled down at the girl, then locked eyes with Richard. "Tell the board I quit. And while you're at it..." She picked up his untouched coffee and poured it slowly onto his polished shoes. "Tell them their new CEO smells like burnt espresso and failure." The diner erupted. Maggie whooped from behind the counter. Jenkins slapped his knee. And Marcus just looked at Olivia with something fierce and proud in his eyes. Richard scrambled back, his dignity in tatters. "You'll regret this," he spat. Olivia shrugged. "Doubt it." She turned to Marcus. "So, about those Sunday pancakes," Emma yanked on her sleeve. "And the lake," Olivia laughed, the sound bright and unburdened. "And the lake." As Richard stormed out, the bell jingling behind him, Olivia realized something extraordinary for the first time in her life. She wasn't afraid of what came next. Somewhere between the pie and the puddles, the breakdown and the breakthrough, she'd found something no boardroom could ever offer: a place, a purpose, a family. And damn if it didn't taste sweeter than Maggie's apple pie. The Chicago skyline rose before Olivia like a gilded cage, its glittering towers suddenly feeling hollow after the warmth of Millfield. Her assistant Daniel was waiting at the office doors, his face pinched with worry. "Miss Kensington, thank God Richard's called an emergency board meeting. He's telling everyone you've lost my mind." Olivia finished, striding past him toward the elevator. "Good, let's give them a show." The boardroom fell silent when she entered. Richard sat at the head of the table, smug as a cat with cream. "Ah, the prodigal CEO returns. Did you enjoy slumming it with the—" Olivia didn't let him finish. She dropped a thick folder on the table with a thud. "Before we discuss my alleged incompetence, let's review Richard's creative accounting. Page 12 shows $3 million diverted to offshore accounts. Page 30, Wasauer yeah." Richard shot up, face purple. "Those are fabricated." "Funny," Olivia mused, tapping her phone. A video played Richard's own voice bragging about teaching that ice queen a lesson to a reporter. The room erupted. 2 hours later, Olivia stood alone on her penthouse balcony, the city lights blurring through unshed tears. Her phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "Emma made you a crown. Says CEOs need crowns. Meh." Attached was a photo, a lopsided cardboard crown decorated with glitter and dinosaur stickers, perched on her abandoned office chair in Marcus's garage. Olivia laughed until she cried. Then she dialed a number she'd memorized without realizing. Marcus answered on the first ring. "Knew you couldn't stay away." "Turns out," Olivia said, watching the sunrise paint the sky in Millfield's colors, "I don't need a kingdom, just a garage, and maybe a frog-themed raincoat." Somewhere in the background, Emma squealed. Marcus's chuckle was warm as the coffee they'd shared. "Better hurry back then. Kid's already planning your pancake inauguration." Olivia took one last look at the skyline, not with regret, but as a woman finally seeing clearly. She had a crown to claim. The boardroom's tension was so thick Olivia could taste it like stale coffee and ambition gone sour. Richard's smirk widened as he tapped his Mont Blanc pen against the table, a metronome counting down what he assumed would be her professional demise. Then her phone buzzed. A text lit up the screen. "Ask Richie about Project Phoenix, and maybe check his left desk drawer." Olivia's pulse spiked. She hadn't told Marcus about Richard's pet project, the one that had mysteriously drained R&D funds last quarter. She leaned forward, her voice dripping with newfound steel. "Before we vote, Richard, why don't you tell the board about Project Phoenix? And while you're at it, what's in your desk drawer, the one with the keypad?" Richard's pen clattered to the table. That's classified." David Hamilton, the neutral board member, suddenly sat straighter. "I approve no such project." Olivia seized the moment. She pulled up the files. Marcus had somehow unearthed blueprints for a side venture using company resources, Richard's secret meetings with competitors. The room erupted. Richard shot up his chair, screeching, "This is a witch hunt, she's—" "Authentic." Olivia finished standing. "Guilty as charged." She tossed her keycard onto the table. "But unlike you, I won't cling to a title that demands I sacrifice my humanity. Effective immediately, I'm resigning as CEO." The gasps were almost comical. David's mouth hung open. Richard looked like he'd been slapped with a fish. Olivia smoothed her blazer, the same one that had been drenched in Millfield rain. "But first," she added sweetly, "I'm calling an emergency audit. Starting with your department, Richard." As she turned to leave her assistant, Daniel rushed in, face flushed. "Ms. Kensington, the press is downstairs. They got a tip about Richard's creative accounting." Olivia finished. She winked at Richard's ashen face. Funny how the truth finds its way out. The elevator doors closed on chaos. Outside, the autumn air was crisp, the sky impossibly blue. Olivia took a deep breath, no tightness in her chest, no weight on her shoulders. Just freedom. Her phone buzzed again. Emma's voice chirped through a voice note. "Daddy says to tell you we saved you a seat at breakfast, and also that you're bad ass." Olivia laughed loud enough that a passing businessman startled. She typed back one word, "coming." Somewhere ahead, the highway stretched toward Millfield, toward a garage that smelled like oil and honesty, toward a little girl who thought CEOs needed glittery crowns. And for the first time in her life, Olivia Kensington couldn't wait to be ordinary. Olivia reached into her briefcase and slid a folder across the table. It landed with a satisfying thud. "Actually, Richard, I propose we expand into Millbrook." The board erupted in murmurs. David Hamilton flipped open the folder, his eyebrows climbing as he scanned the documents. "You want to build a community training center with a mechanics garage. Not just any garage." Olivia tapped the photo paper clip to the proposal. A snapshot of Marcus's weathered sign, the words, "Thompson's Garage Honest Work," gleaming in the morning light. "A flagship vocational school, where we train underserved youth in skilled trades while providing free auto repairs to low-income families." Richard barked a laugh. "You've lost your mind. That's a PR stunt, not a business strategy." Olivia didn't blink. "Funny, because according to these projections," she flipped to a chart marked with Marcus's messy annotations, "this stunt would net us $12 million in first-year tax incentives, a 40% boost in brand affinity, and..." She paused, savoring the moment. "Exclusive rights to the Department of Education's new trades initiative." The room went silent. Even Richard's sneer faltered. Then a knock. Olivia's assistant entered holding an envelope. "Urgent courier, Ms. Kensington." She tore it open. Inside was a child's crayon drawing a stick figure Olivia, shaking hands with a stick figure Marcus under a rainbow. Scrawled in wobbly letters, "Dear Miss CEO, please help my dad fix more cars. Love, Emma, and Daddy says yes." Olivia's throat tightened. She held up the drawing like a battle standard. "This is what we've been missing. Not just profit's purpose. And if that makes me unfit to lead..." She shrugged, gathering her papers. "Then I'll take this idea to investors who get it." David stood abruptly. "Sit down, Olivia." He turned to the board. "I move we table the confidence vote and approve a 6-month pilot in Millbrook." Richard's face purpled. "You can't be serious." "Deadly," David said. "Unless you'd like to explain why your classified project siphoned funds from my division." As the board descended into chaos, Olivia slipped Emma's drawing into her pocket. Her phone buzzed a text from Marcus. "Heard you're stirring up trouble. Kid wants to know if CEOs get capes to go with their crowns." Olivia bit back a grin. The battle wasn't won yet, but for the first time she knew exactly what kind of leader she wanted to be, one who built bridges, not just bottom lines. And if that meant trading power suits for a glittery crown, and maybe a mechanic's embrace, well, some compromises were worth making. Olivia reached into her briefcase and pulled out a single sheet of paper, sliding it toward David Hamilton. "I'm resigning as CEO effective immediately to launch Wellington Foundation, a non-profit that will implement every initiative I just proposed." Richard's triumphant smirk froze. "You can't..." And Olivia continued, "I'm taking the Millbrook pilot project with me, along with..." She tapped the paper, $73 million in pledged funding from investors who believe in this vision. The board erupted. David scanned the document, his eyes widening. "The Jameson Group Venture United. These are our biggest competitors." Olivia shrugged. "Turns out compassion has excellent market value." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Richard, that hopeless struggle you mentioned." She tossed a USB drive onto the table. "You'll find 3 years of embezzlement records on there. Happy auditing." The drive clattered like a grenade. Richard lunged for it, but David snatched it first. Outside, the elevator doors opened to reveal Olivia's entire executive team standing with packed boxes. Her COO stepped forward. "Heard you're starting a rebellion. We brought supplies." Olivia blinked. "You're all quitting." "Not quitting," her CFO corrected, adjusting her glasses. "Repositioning." Also, Martha from accounting may have leaked Richard's offshore accounts to the SEC. A laugh bubbled up from Olivia's chest. Of course, Marcus's research had help. Her phone buzzed with a photo Emma wearing a hard hat 2 sizes too big, giving a thumbs up in front of the garage. Marcus's text followed, "Construction crews ready when you are. P.S. Kid says CEOs definitely need capes." As the elevator descended, Olivia realized something extraordinary. She wasn't falling. She was flying. And the best part, this time she wasn't alone. The press conference was supposed to be held at Wellington Foods' sleek downtown headquarters. Instead, Olivia stood in front of Thompson's garage, the faded blue sign creaking in the wind behind her. A dozen reporters shifted uncomfortably on folding chairs borrowed from Maggie's diner, their designer shoes sinking into the gravel. Emma, perched on Marcus's shoulders, waved at the cameras with glitter-covered hands. "That's my new CEO," she announced to no one in particular. Olivia adjusted the microphone, a borrowed karaoke machine, and cleared her throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the future headquarters of Wellington Community Ventures." She gestured to the garage where a hand-painted banner flapped in the breeze. "Under new management, but same honest work." The financial correspondent from Bloomberg blinked. "You're basing your new company in a mechanic's shop." "Temporarily," Olivia said smoothly. "We believe in starting where the real work happens." She nodded to Marcus, who flipped a switch. The garage doors rolled up to reveal a gleaming new vocational school blueprint displayed on a bedsheet projector screen. Richard's voice cut through the crowd. "This is a publicity stunt." He pushed forward his tailored suit glaringly out of place. "You can't seriously expect investors to—" "Or actually, Olivia interrupted. "We're already oversubscribed." She clicked a remote. The projector switched to a list of backers, including every major competitor Richard had spent years bad-mouthing. "Turns out, when you stop chasing shareholders and start serving communities, capital tends to follow." A reporter raised her hand. "Ms. Kensington, what makes this different from corporate social responsibility programs?" Olivia opened her mouth, but Emma beat her to it. "Because we're nice." The crowd chuckled as the little girl brandished her glue stick-covered business plan. "And we're gonna fix cars and the world." Marcus squeezed Olivia's hand, a silent, "Your turn." She took a deep breath. 3 days ago, I broke down on Route 47. Today, I'm building something that can't be measured in quarterly reports. She met Richard's furious gaze. "You called me weak for valuing people over profits, but real weakness." She gestured to the garage, to Emma's glitter, to Marcus's steady presence. "It's being too afraid to change." As the applause built, Olivia spotted Maggie passing out pie to reporters. David Hamilton discreetly slipped her his business card. And Richard. Richard was already retreating to his town car, the weight of his outdated world crumbling around him. Back in the garage, Olivia collapsed onto a grease-stained stool. Marcus handed her a mug of something strong and diesel-scented. "So, CEO of a revolution. How's it feel?" Olivia sipped, grimaced, then laughed. "Like I finally found the right fuel." Outside, the first students were already arriving, local kids clutching worn toolboxes, eager to learn. Emma was showing them her office, a cardboard box decorated with dinosaur stickers. And Olivia Kensington. She rolled up her sleeves and got to work. The twinkle lights swayed like fireflies caught in a jubilant dance. As Sarah took in the scene, Maggie, waving a wooden spoon, still dripping with pie, filling Old Man Jenkins, holding a sign that read, "Finally someone with sense," and the entire high school marching band, all 12 of them, striking up an off-key but enthusiastic rendition of "For She's a Jolly Good Fellow." Then she saw it. Parked beside Michael's garage, sat her old Mercedes, completely transformed. The hood now bore a hand-painted mural, Emma's stick-figure family joined by a new blonde stick woman, all holding wrenches under a rainbow. The license plate frame read, "Honk if you believe in second chances." Sarah's breath hitched. "You fixed it!" Michael rubbed his neck, suddenly shy. "Nah, we improved it." He tossed her the keys. "Take a look inside." The moment Sarah opened the door, the scent of fresh leather, and was that apple pie, hit her. The seats had been reupholstered in buttery soft leather. The dashboard now featured a crayon-drawn CEO navigation system, with helpful arrows pointing to adventure and happiness, and tucked in the cup holder, a lard cookie. Sarah held up the suspiciously greasy treat. Emma bounced on her toes. Maggie's secret recipe for when you get hangry at meetings. The crowd erupted in laughter. Sarah clutched the cookie like a sacred relic, her vision blurring. This wasn't just a car. It was a homecoming, a promise. Michael stepped closer, his work-roughened fingers brushing hers as he took the keys back. Figured you'd want the grand tour first. He gestured to the garage where a new sign hung, Wellington Community Ventures, Est Eor. Today, Sarah turned in a slow circle, taking in the faces of her unlikely tribe, the mechanic who'd shown her kindness, the little girl who'd unlocked her heart, the town that had given her purpose. The weight of her designer suit and CEO title had never felt lighter. As the marching band segued into an enthusiastic but questionable version of Eye of the Tiger, Sarah did something utterly uncharacteristic. She climbed onto the hood of her newly christened Mercedes, cookie in hand, and raised it like a toast. To Millbrook, her voice carried over the cheers. To new beginnings, and to pie. The crowd roared in unison. Somewhere in the chaos, Emma tugged on her sleeve. Miss Sarah, does this mean you'll stay forever? Sarah scooped the girl up, breathing in the scent of crayons and hope. Sweetheart, she whispered, her eyes finding Michael's over the crowd. I was never really leaving. And as the sunset painted the garage in gold, Sarah Wellington, former CEO, current lard cookie enthusiast, realized something extraordinary. The best breakdowns sometimes lead to the most beautiful rebuilds. The autumn leaves crunched underfoot as Sarah stood on the porch of what was now her house, a little blue cottage with a sagging roof and the best view of Main Street. The moving truck, which also doubled as Old Man Jenkins' hay hauler, sat parked at an angle, its contents already half unloaded by a brigade of townspeople passing boxes like a bucket brigade. Emma emerged from the chaos, clutching a lopsided housewarming gift, a terrarium containing what appeared to be a pet rock, wearing a tiny cowboy hat. This is Mr. Pebbles, she announced solemnly. He'll protect you from bad dreams and boring meetings. Sarah accepted it with equal gravity. Does he require a salary? Just belly rubs on Tuesdays, Emma confirmed. Michael appeared behind her, balancing 3 boxes labeled CEO Stuff Danger Glitter Inside in Shaky Tower. Where do you want your? The tower wobbled. Extremely important business things. Sarah reached to steady the stack, her fingers brushing his. Anywhere but the bathroom. I learned that lesson after the great merger of 2018. Their laughter mingled in the crisp air as the sun dipped below the water tower, painting the town in shades of gold and possibility. Somewhere down the street, Maggie was organizing a potluck with military precision, and the high school band was butchering another celebratory tune. Sarah leaned against the porch rail, watching her new life unfold with quiet wonder. The cottage, the terrarium, the way Michael's flannel shirt brushed her arm when he stood beside her. None of it was in the 5-year plan she'd once clung to so fiercely. Emma tugged on her sleeve. Miss Sarah, can we paint your office wall with chalkboard paint so we can draw business plans? Sarah glanced at Michael, who shrugged. Kid's got vision. Also, I already bought the paint. In that moment, surrounded by the messy, beautiful reality of a life she'd never dared imagine, Sarah realized something extraordinary. The best deals weren't made in boardrooms. They were sealed with pet rocks and secondhand paint, with shared laughter and the quiet certainty that wherever this winding road led, she wouldn't be walking it alone. And as the first stars blinked awake above Millbrook, Sarah Wellington, no longer a CEO but something far better, stepped into her imperfect, glorious new beginning. The screen door squeaked behind her. Somewhere Mr. Pebbles stood guard, and the world for once felt exactly as it should be. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth as the ring caught the flickering lights, a simple band with a single diamond, flanked by 2 tiny wrench charms. Because, of course, it would be. From behind a tree, Emma burst forth, barely containing her excitement. Say yes, I helped pick it. The diamonds from Daddy's great-grandma's brooch, and the wrenches are from his first toolbox, and... Michael shot her a look. Emma Grace, we talked about suspense. The little girl clapped both hands over her mouth, but her eyes still danced above her fingers. Sarah's laugh came out half-sob. This moment, the handmade ring, the twinkle light strung haphazardly through the trees, clearly Emma's handiwork. The entire town holding their collective breath in the bushes was so perfectly them. She knelt to meet Michael at eye level, her designer jeans sinking into the damp earth. "You know," she whispered, "I've negotiated billion-dollar deals, but nothing ever scared me as much as this." Michael's thumb brushed her cheek, catching a tear. "That a yes, or are you stalling for better terms?" Sarah glanced at Emma, at the crowd of familiar faces peeking from behind trees, at the ring that held more heart than any jewel she'd ever owned. "Terms," she grinned. "I only have one." Michael raised an eyebrow. Sarah leaned in until their foreheads touched. "Sunday pancakes, every Sunday, for life." The cheer that erupted from the bushes nearly drowned out Michael's deal before he kissed her. Somewhere in the chaos, Emma whooped, Maggie blew her nose loudly into a checkered napkin, and Old Man Jenkins muttered, "About damn time." Later, as they walked back hand in hand, the townspeople scattering ahead to prepare what was surely going to be an epic celebration, Sarah realized something. She'd spent her life chasing milestones, promotions, acquisitions, accolades. But this quiet walk with her soon-to-be family, the weight of a wrench-shaped promise on her finger, the sound of Emma singing off-key ahead of them. This wasn't a milestone. It was the whole damn road, and she couldn't wait to travel it. The church doors swung open to reveal Emma marching down the aisle with all the gravitas of a five-star general, scattering flower petals with one hand and clutching Mr. Pebbles, now sporting a tiny bow tie in the other. Halfway to the altar, she paused, frowned at the ring pillow she'd dropped, then shrugged and continued, leaving a trail of rose petals and one very confused pet rock in her wake. Sarah's breath caught when she saw Michael waiting at the altar, his usually grease-stained hands scrubbed clean for once, his best flannel pressed within an inch of its life. His eyes widened as she approached his lips, forming a silent wow that made her cheeks flush. Then a squeal of brakes outside. All heads turned as a limousine, black-tinted windows, suspiciously corporate, screeched to a halt. The door flew open, and out stepped Richard Harris, in a tuxedo. The crowd tensed. Michael's shoulders squared, but Richard merely straightened his tie, cleared his throat, and produced a battered toolbox from the limo. "Thought you might need a best man who knows how to fix things when they break down." A beat of stunned silence. Then Marcus threw back his head and laughed, the rich booming sound that had first drawn Sarah to him. "Took you long enough, city boy." The tension shattered like glass. The ceremony continued with Richard awkwardly patting Michael's back, Emma beaming like a tiny sun, and Sarah realizing as she slipped the wrench-adorned wedding band onto Marcus's finger that life's greatest surprises often came in the most unexpected packages. Later, under a shower of birdseed, Maggie had vetoed rice as bad for the ducks. Sarah pressed her forehead to her husband's. "Think we can top this tomorrow?" Marcus grinned. "Sweetheart, we haven't even gotten to the part where I teach you to change a tire." And as the sun set over Millbrook, painting the church, the garage, and their intertwined futures in gold, Sarah knew one thing for certain. Her best breakdown had led to her perfect beginning. Olivia's fingers twitched against her phone screen, the numbers on her banking app glaring like a neon sign in the dim garage. 5 times the rate. 10. It was just math, the kind she'd mastered before most kids could tie their shoes. But Marcus didn't even glance at the digits. Instead, he tucked the blanket tighter around his daughter's shoulders, the frayed edges brushing against a crayon drawing taped to the wall, a lopsided family portrait with 3 stick figures and a dog that looked more like a potato with legs. "Business critical, huh?" Marcus finally said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Funny, so's bedtime." Emma giggled, swinging her feet under the chair, her unicorn slippers kicking at the air. Olivia's jaw tightened. She'd faced down hostile takeovers, media scandals, even a lawsuit from her own uncle, but this A-man who prioritized story time over 6 figures, it made her skin itch. Then Emma piped up her voice. "Syrup sweet. Daddy fixes everything, even Mrs. Callahan's cat when it got stuck in the tree." Marcus groaned playfully. "That was one time, Squirt." The little girl turned to Olivia, her eyes wide. "You got a cat. Olivia blinked. I know. I have a driver. The words tasted ridiculous the moment they left her mouth. Marcus snorted, tossing the rag onto the workbench. Rich people, he muttered, but there was no venom in it. Just exhaustion. The kind that came from working 3 jobs since he was 18, the kind Olivia had only ever seen from the tinted windows of her town car. A sudden crash of thunder shook the garage. The lights flickered and Emma yelped, scrambling into her father's arms. Instinctively, Olivia stepped forward, then froze her designer heels glued to the oil-stained concrete. She hadn't comforted a child since, well, ever. Marcus rocked Emma gently, humming a tune Olivia vaguely recognized, something her nanny used to sing. The storm raged outside, but in that moment, the garage felt unnervingly still. Olivia's phone buzzed, another email about the merger, no doubt. She silenced it with a stab of her thumb. Look, she started, voice uncharacteristically quiet. I get it, family first, but if I don't make that meeting tomorrow, 200 people lose their jobs. Not just numbers on a spreadsheet, people. The admission hung between them, raw and unexpected. Marcus studied her for a long beat. Then, without a word, he carried Emma to a cot in the corner, pressing a kiss to her forehead. When he turned back, his expression had shifted. Tell you what, he said, grabbing a set of keys off a hook. My buddy runs the auto shop in Millfield. He's got a loaner ugly as sin, but it'll get you to Chicago. Olivia's breath caught. Why would you? Because unlike you, Marcus interrupted, tossing her the keys. I don't confuse expensive with important. The metal jingled in her palm, cold and foreign. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle, the first hint of moonlight breaking through the clouds. Olivia Kensington, who'd built her empire on never owing anyone anything, suddenly owed a man in grease-stained coveralls more than she could ever wire to his account. And the worst part? She wasn't even mad about it. The reception was in full swing when Emma tugged on Sarah's wedding gown with frosting-covered fingers. Mama, Daddy, come see. She dragged them to the center of the square, where old man Jenkins stood beside a curious lump covered by a tarp. With a dramatic flourish and some help from Maggie, he yanked it away to reveal a life-sized cake replica of Thompson's garage, complete with edible wrenches and a tiny fondant Mercedes with lopsided wheels. Surprise, Emma shouted. It's our home and we can eat it. Sarah burst out laughing until she noticed the meticulous details, the chalkboard wall with real icing, drawings, the miniature Mr. Pebbles guarding the door, even the tiny fondant version of Richard's limo parked haphazardly out front. Marcus wiped suddenly damp eyes. Kids got your attention to detail, Kensington. Thompson, Sarah corrected, licking frosting from his cheek. I believe that's Mrs. Thompson to you. As the townspeople cheered, Richard approached hesitantly, holding 2 champagne flutes and what appeared to be a spreadsheet. For the new venture, he muttered, thrusting the papers at Sarah. Impact investment projections. Thought you might. That is, if you want. Sarah scanned the document, a proposal to expand Wellington Community Ventures nationwide, with Richard listed as director of not being a jerk. Any more Emma's handwriting. She handed it to Marcus. What do you think, partner? Marcus smirked. Depends. He gonna wear coveralls and learn to change oil? Richard paled. Sarah kissed her husband soundly as Emma whooped and launched herself at Richard's legs. You gotta say yes, Uncle Richie. We already bought you work boots. Later, as the stars emerged and the cake garage lay in delicious ruins, Sarah leaned against Marcus, watching Emma teach Richard how to make s'mores without setting his sleeves on fire. Think we should rescue him, Marcus murmured. Sarah smiled. Nah, let him learn the hard way, just like I did. And as the firelight danced on their faces, on the town that had become her family, on the future they would build together, Sarah Thompson, formerly Kensington forever, a mother occasionally, still a CEO, realized something extraordinary. The best deals weren't measured in dollars or stock prices. They were counted in sticky fingers and second chances in laughter that echoed through small-town squares, in the quiet certainty that wherever life took them next, they'd face it together, grease stains, glitter and all. The camera panned out from the Thompson family's porch swing where Sarah rested her head on Marcus's shoulder while Emma demonstrated advanced jump rope techniques to a very patient Mr. Pebbles. The fading sunlight caught the new sign above the garage, now reading Thompson and Kensington Community Ventures in slightly crooked lettering, Emma's first official business contribution. Cut to Richard Harris' sleeves, rolled up awkwardly, balancing a tray of Maggie's famous peach cobbler at the town potluck. I still think ROI should stand for Return on Integrity. He grumbled to no one in particular, earning a supportive clap on the back from Old Man Jenkins that nearly sent the cobbler flying. Fade to black. Text appeared on screen. Want to see Emma's CEO corner a tiny arrow pointed to a YouTube logo drawn in crayon. Then, in Sarah's elegant former CEO handwriting, PS. The best breakdowns often lead to the most beautiful rebuilds. Like and subscribe for more stories that mend hearts and engines. The final shot. A close-up of Emma's glitter-covered business plan now framed in the garage office, its title visible beneath a smudge of grape jelly. How to Fix Cars in the World, by Emma Thompson Kensington, age 734. The keys to the loaner car dug into Olivia's palm, but it was Emma's voice, sleepy and innocent, that cut deeper. "Daddy, why is she so angry?" The question hung in the air like the scent of oil and rain, stripping away layers of polished composure, until all that remained was something raw and unfamiliar. Marcus didn't gloat. He just knelt beside his daughter, his work-roughened hands, smoothing her curls with a tenderness that made Olivia's throat tighten. "Some folks think yelling makes the world spin faster, Squirt," he murmured. Emma yawned, her teddy bear clutched to her chest. "But you always say patience fixes things best." Olivia's phone chose that moment to vibrate, her CFO no doubt panicking over pre-meeting logistics. She silenced it with a jab of her thumb, the screen flashing a notification market volatility warning. The words usually sent her into crisis mode. Tonight, they just looked small. "You're right," Olivia said abruptly. The admission tasted like burnt coffee. "About the car, about—" She gestured vaguely at herself, her designer suit now wrinkled beyond salvation. "All of this." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Damn, wasn't expecting that before midnight." A laugh burst out of her, sharp, startled, utterly undignified. Emma giggled too, her nose scrunching. And just like that, the tension cracked like ice under sunlight. Marcus tossed her a faded hoodie from a nearby hook. "Wear this if you're heading to the inn. That silk blazer's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine." Olivia caught it on reflex, the fabric soft from countless washes. It smelled like detergent and motor oil. She hesitated, then pulled it on over her ruined blouse. The sleeves swallowed her hands. Emma clapped. "Now you look like a real person." Olivia snorted. "High praise." Marcus grabbed a flashlight and walked her to the door. The rain had eased to a drizzle, the night air thick with the scent of wet asphalt. "Millfield Inn's 2 blocks left," he said. "Tell Martha I sent you. She'll give you the room with the least mold." Olivia hesitated, the hoodie's frayed cuffs brushing her wrists. "The merger tomorrow. Those 300 jobs." "I'll call my buddy at first light," Marcus said. "His loaner's ugly, but it's reliable. You'll make it." She searched his face for pity or smugness. Found neither, just quiet certainty. For the first time in years, Olivia Kensington didn't have the last word. She just nodded, stepped into the night, and let the garage door close behind her with a soft click. The inn's neon sign glowed ahead like a crooked star. And somewhere between the puddles, her reflection looked less like a CEO and more like someone who might be capable of change. The mug was warm against Olivia's palms, the steam curling up in lazy spirals. It smelled like cinnamon and childhood, something she hadn't tasted since her nanny smuggled contraband marshmallows into her strictly organic, sugar-free upbringing. Emma clambered onto the chair beside her legs, swinging, and thrust a battered picture book into Olivia's lap. "This one's my favorite," she declared. "It's about a dragon who thinks he's a chicken." Marcus snorted from the stove where he was stirring another pot. "Correction was your favorite. Yesterday it was the mermaid who wanted to be a dentist." Emma rolled her eyes with the dramatic flair of a seasoned thespian. "Daddy stories change." "Duh." Olivia's laugh surprised even herself. The sound was rusty like a door hinge long unused. She took a sip of the cocoa-rich velvety with a hint of chili that burned pleasantly in her throat. "This is incredible," she admitted. Marcus leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Secret ingredient's a pinch of cayenne. Keeps you warm from the inside out." He nodded at her untouched book. "Go on. The dragon's waiting." Olivia hesitated, then opened the book. The pages were worn at the edges, some stained with what looked like grape jelly. She began reading aloud, her CEO cadence softening as Emma nestled against her arm. Halfway through, the little girl interrupted. "You're doing the dragon all wrong. He sounds scary. He's supposed to sound silly." "Ah, my mistake." Olivia cleared her throat and tried again, pitching her voice into a ridiculous squeak. Emma dissolved into giggles. A gust of wind rattled the garage door. Outside, the storm howled, but inside, the space felt improbably bright. Olivia caught Marcus watching them, his expression unreadable. Then his phone buzzed, a weathered flip model that looked like it had survived a war. He frowned at the screen. "Parts supplier. Gotta take this." As he stepped into the back room, Emma tugged Olivia's sleeve. "You're pretty," she whispered conspiratorially. "Even when you yell." Olivia's throat tightened. "And you're very brave," she whispered back. "Most people run when I yell." Emma considered this, then patted Olivia's hand with sticky fingers. "That's 'cause they don't know you're just a chicken dragon." Marcus returned, his face grim. "Bad news. The radiator's back ordered. Won't be here till Friday." Olivia's stomach dropped. Friday was 3 days away. The merger, the jobs. Then Emma gasped. "Daddy, what about the truck?" Marcus's brow furrowed. "What truck?" "The blue one, the one you fixed for Mr. Jenkins. He said you could borrow it any time." Emma bounced in her seat. "It's huge. It could carry 100 of her cars." A slow grin spread across Marcus's face. "Damn, forgot about that." He glanced at Olivia. "Jenkins owes me a favor. His F-250's a beast, but it'll get you to Chicago by dawn." Olivia stared at them, this man and his tiny, brilliant conspirator. The loaner car, the Coco, the chicken dragon. None of it fit into her spreadsheet-perfect world. She set down the mug, her fingers trembling. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus shrugged. "Emma likes you, and honestly," he smirked. "Watching a CEO read picture books in my hoodie is the most entertainment I've had all year." The laugh that burst from Olivia this time was loud, unguarded. Outside, the rain slowed to a whisper. Somewhere in the distance, a clock struck midnight, and Olivia Kensington, for the first time in decades, felt something dangerously close to hope. The coffee was strong and bitter, just how Olivia liked it, though she couldn't imagine how Marcus had guessed. She wrapped her hands around the mug, the heat seeping into her skin. Across the table, Marcus studied her with a quiet intensity that made her want to fidget. She wasn't used to being seen like this, not as the CEO, not as the heiress, just as Olivia. "You were right," she said abruptly. "About the car, about everything." The admission tasted strange on her tongue, like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. Marcus leaned back in his chair, the wood creaking under his weight. "Yeah, well, don't go spreading that around. Might ruin my reputation as a stubborn ass." Olivia huffed a laugh, then glanced at Emma, now curled up like a kitten under her blanket. "She's something else," she murmured. "Yeah." Marcus's voice softened. "She's the reason I get up in the morning, even when the world's doing its damnedest to knock me down." A silence settled between them, comfortable in a way Olivia hadn't expected. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, leaving the world hushed and dripping. Then Marcus cleared his throat. "So, that merger tomorrow." Olivia tensed. "What about it?" "You really think rushing there in Jenkins' truck is going to save those jobs?" The question hit like a punch to the gut. Olivia opened her mouth to defend herself, to lie she wasn't sure, but the words died when she met his gaze. There was no judgment there. Just curiosity. She exhaled. "No," she admitted. "The merger's a done deal. The layoffs were decided weeks ago." The truth hung in the air, ugly and unavoidable. Marcus didn't look surprised. So why the hell were you so desperate to get there? Olivia stared into her coffee. Because if I'm not the one to deliver the news, the board will spin it like I'm weak, like I couldn't handle the tough calls. She laughed sharp and humorless. Funny, huh? I spent a decade proving I'm just as ruthless as any of them. And now you're sitting in a garage drinking coffee with a mechanic. Marcus finished. Their eyes locked. Something unspoken passed between them, an understanding maybe. A recognition of the masks they both wore. Then Emma stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about dragons and ice cream. Marcus smiled, the lines around his eyes crinkling. Kids got weird dreams. Olivia found herself smiling back. Takes after her dad then. Marcus chuckled low and warm. The sound did something funny to Olivia's chest. Her phone buzzed again, the 5th time in an hour. This time she didn't even check it. You know. Marcus said slowly. Jenkins' truck's still an option, if you want it. Olivia shook her head. I think I'll call my COO. Let him handle the meeting. The decision felt right, like a weight lifting off her shoulders. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Yeah, and what'll you do instead? Olivia glanced at Emma, then at the half-finished storybook on the table. Well, she said, her voice lighter than it had been in years. I hear there's a dragon who thinks he's a chicken, and I'm very invested in how that turns out. Marcus's laughter filled the garage, bright and unguarded. Outside, the first rays of dawn painted the sky in streaks of gold and pink. And Olivia Kensington, for the first time in as long as she could remember, felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The coffee had gone cold, but Olivia barely noticed. Marcus's words hung in the air between them, raw, unpolished truths that made her penthouse problems feel embarrassingly small. She traced a finger along a chip in the mug, the ceramic rough under her manicured nail. I chase the big things too, she said suddenly. Harvard, the corner office, the cover of Forbes. Thought that's what happiness looked like. She glanced at Emma, now drooling slightly on her teddy bear. Turns out, I was just running in circles. Fast as hell, but nowhere. Marcus studied her, his gaze like a mechanic's wrench, unflinching, capable of taking things apart. And what's your Emma? The question caught her off guard. Olivia opened her mouth, then closed it. Her phone buzzed again, her assistant probably, and for the first time in her life, she ignored it without a twinge of guilt. Maybe, she said slowly, I haven't found her yet. A sudden thump made them both turn. Emma had slid off her chair in her sleep, landing softly on a pile of old blankets. She didn't even stir, just curled into them like a contented cat. Marcus shook his head, a fond smile tugging at his lips. Kid could sleep through a tornado. He stood to lift her, but Olivia was already moving. Let me. She scooped Emma up, surprised by how light she was, how naturally her head lolled against Olivia's shoulder. The scent of strawberry shampoo and crayons clung to her. Olivia's chest did something strange and warm. Marcus watched something unreadable in his eyes. You're a natural. Hardly. Olivia scoffed, but she didn't hand Emma back. Instead, she carried her to the cot in the corner, tucking the blankets around her with a precision usually reserved for boardroom negotiations. When she turned, Marcus was right there, closer than she'd expected. The garage seemed to shrink around them. You'd have made a hell of a mom, he said quietly. The words hit like a sledgehammer. Olivia's breath caught. There'd been a time early in her career when she'd still believed she could have it all, when she'd dreamed of that. Before the miscarriages. Before the board made it clear that maternity leave wasn't in the vocabulary of a CEO. She stepped back, bumping into a tool rack. Wrenches clattered to the floor. The noise startled them both into laughter, breaking the tension. You break it, you buy it, Marcus teased, bending to pick them up. Olivia knelt beside him. Their fingers brushed over a socket wrench. A spark, literal or not, jumped between them. Outside, the first birds began to chirp. Dawn painted the oil stains on the concrete floor in streaks of pink and gold. Olivia realized with startling clarity that she didn't want to leave. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Marcus must have seen it in her face. He straightened, offering a hand to pull her up. Sun's rising. You should get some rest before your drive. She took his hand. Held on a second too long. What if I don't want to go? For a heartbeat. The world held its breath. Then Marcus grinned that slow, infuriating, heart-stopping grin. "Well, Ms. Kensington," he drawled, "I do believe that's the first time you've ever said I don't want to instead of I can't." And just like that, Olivia Kensington, the woman who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals before breakfast, found herself utterly, wonderfully speechless. Emma's small hand reached out and patted Olivia's knee with startling gentleness. "That's so sad," she whispered. Then, with the boundless optimism only a child could muster, she added, "But you can be part of our family. Now Daddy makes pancakes on Sundays and we go to the lake sometimes and—" Marcus choked on his coffee. "Emma Grace Thompson, what did we say about adopting strangers?" "But she's not a stranger," Emma protested, gesturing to Olivia's borrowed hoodie. "She's wearing your clothes and she reads stories almost right." Olivia burst out laughing, a real, unfiltered sound that startled even herself. It felt foreign and wonderful, like rediscovering a forgotten language. Marcus rubbed his temples, but his eyes sparkled. "Kid's got a point," he muttered. Then to Olivia, "Fair warning, Sunday pancakes are mandatory, and she puts rainbow sprinkles in the batter like some kind of maniac." Emma stuck out her tongue. "You like them?" Olivia watched their easy banter, her chest tight. This was what she'd missed her whole life, not the grandeur, but the messiness of real connection. The kind that left syrup on your shirt and laughter in your bones. Her phone buzzed again, her father's name flashing on the screen. The quarterly earnings call, the one she'd never missed in 15 years. She silenced it with a swipe. Emma gasped. "You just ignored your phone." She turned to Marcus with wide eyes. "Daddy, she's learning." Marcus grinned. Took her long enough. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, painting the garage in golden light. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean. Olivia took a deep breath. "So, about those pancakes." Emma squealed and launched herself into Olivia's lap, nearly knocking over the cold cocoa. Marcus shook his head, but his smile said everything. And in that moment, Olivia Kensington, former corporate titan, current hoodie thief, made a decision. She was staying for breakfast, and maybe for whatever came after. Emma came bounding back with a pink raincoat that had seen better days, its hood adorned with lopsided frog ears. "You can wear my spare jacket," she announced, thrusting a tiny yellow windbreaker at Olivia. Marcus snorted. "That'll fit her like a napkin on a giraffe." Olivia held up the miniature coat, its sleeves barely reaching her elbows. "I think I'll risk the rain," she said deadpan. Emma pouted. "But you'll get wet, sweetheart," Olivia said, kneeling to button the girl's frog coat. "I've survived 3 hostile takeovers and a shareholder mutiny. A little water won't kill me." Marcus grabbed a battered umbrella from a hook. "Famous last words," he muttered, holding the garage door open. The rain had softened to a mist, the kind that made everything glow under the streetlights. They stepped out into the night, Emma skipping ahead through puddles, her boots sending up tiny splashes. Olivia hesitated at the threshold, her Louboutins hovering over the wet pavement. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Problem. These cost more than your truck," Olivia said weakly. He smirked. "And yet they can't walk in rain. Funny how that works." With that, he scooped her up like a bride, one arm under her knees, the other behind her back. Olivia yelped. "Put me down." "Can't. Puddle ahead." He stepped over it with exaggerated care, his grin widening as Emma dissolved into giggles. "Relax, Kensington. I've hauled engines heavier than you." Olivia's face burned, but she couldn't help laughing. The absurdity of it, her Olivia Kensington being carried through a backwater town by a mechanic while a 6-year-old cheered them on, was too much. Maggie's diner was a neon oasis in the gloom, its windows fogged with warmth. The bell jingled as they entered, and every head swiveled to stare. A burly man at the counter whistled. "Marcus, who's the fancy lady you rob a bank?" "Worse," Marcus said, setting Olivia down with a thud. "She's a CEO." The diner erupted in laughter. Olivia expected to bristle at the teasing, but instead, she found herself smiling. Emma tugged her toward a corner booth, its vinyl seats cracked with age. "This is our spot," she whispered. Maggie herself, a woman with biceps that could crack walnuts, ambled over. Well, the Thompson boys brought home a stray." She eyed Olivia's hoodie. That's Marcus's. You two playing house? Olivia opened her mouth, but Marcus cut in. Mags, behave. She's had a rough night. Maggie winked. I'll get the pie. As she walked away, Olivia leaned in. Does everyone here have a personality disorder? Marcus slid into the booth beside her, their knees brushing. Nah, just good at spotting phonies. He nodded at her phone, which had buzzed again. That thing's been lighting up like a Christmas tree. Olivia flipped it over without looking. Let them wait. Emma gasped as Maggie returned with a slice of pie the size of a toddler. Apple pie a la mode, she announced, plunking it down. On the house for our new runaway. Olivia stared at the melting vanilla ice cream, the cinnamon-scented steam. Something inside her cracked open. Marcus nudged a fork toward her. Careful, it's addictive. She took a bite. The flavors exploded: tart apples, buttery crust, the cold creaminess of ice cream. It was without question the best thing she'd ever tasted. Emma beamed. Told you. Olivia looked around the diner at the laughing locals, at Marcus's quiet smile, at Emma's ice cream-smeared face, and realized with startling clarity she wasn't just staying for breakfast. She was home. The phone buzzed again, skittering across the table like a nervous insect. Emma eyed it with the solemn wisdom of a child who knew when something was intruding. You gonna answer that? She asked, around a mouthful of grilled cheese. Olivia pushed the phone away. Not tonight. Marcus leaned back in the booth, his arm brushing hers. Damn. That's the second miracle I've seen today. Third. Maggie corrected, sliding a fresh cup of coffee onto the table. First was you showing up with a woman who ain't covered in motor oil. The diner erupted in laughter. Olivia expected to feel out of place, but instead she found herself grinning. These people teased like family sharp, but without malice. It was refreshing. Emma tugged Olivia's sleeve. Try the pie, she insisted, shoving her fork across the table. It's magic. Olivia took a bite. The crust was flaky perfection, the apples spiced just right. Oh my God, she mumbled through the mouthful. Told you, Emma crowed. Maggie winked. Secrets in the lard. Olivia froze fork halfway to her next bite. Lard? Marcus smirked. Welcome to small-town cooking Kensington. We don't do quinoa crust, or whatever nonsense you city folks. The diner door banged open. A man in a sodden suit stood there, panting. Olivia Kensington. The room went silent. Olivia's spine stiffened. Thompson! Her head of security rushed forward. Ma'am, we've been searching for hours. Your assistant said you never arrived in Chicago. Emma's eyes widened. Are you a bodyguard? Thompson ignored her, pulling out his earpiece. Car's outside. We need to leave now to make your meeting. All eyes turned to Olivia. The diner's warmth seemed to leach away, replaced by the familiar chill of expectations. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Marcus studied her, his expression unreadable. Well, CEO, he said softly. This where you remember who you are. Olivia looked around at Emma's worried face, at Maggie's raised eyebrow, at the half-eaten pie that tasted like belonging. She took a deep breath. Thompson, she said, her voice steady. Cancel my meetings for the next 3 days. The bodyguard blinked. All of them! Olivia reached for Marcus's hand under the table. His fingers closed around hers, calloused and sure. All of them, she confirmed. Then, grinning at Emma, turns out I've got a pancake date on Sunday. The diner erupted in cheers. Thompson looked like he might faint, and Olivia Kensington, for the first time in her life, didn't care about the mess. She just leaned into the laughter, the warmth, the life she'd found in the most unexpected place. Somewhere outside, the last of the storm clouds drifted away, leaving the sky clear and full of stars.